Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be talking about unit planning. So probably one of the biggest complaints that I hear from teachers when I meet them is I don't have enough time. I have so much content to get through that I don't have enough time. And I would say that if you followed any standards or any kind of curricula that outlined a set of standards and you followed them in a linear fashion, you would probably take a lot more time and you wouldn't have time to actually cover everything. So my suggestion is, instead of teaching your standards in a linear fashion, why don't we reorganize those standards so that there is some coherency and there is some interconnectedness in the mathematics. So let me give you an example. Geometry, or shape and space, actually goes beautifully either with number or with algebra. And very often in many systems around the world, they're kind of taught separately as separate discrete strands. I think it's important that we actually combine those strands so that students can see the interconnectedness of how geometry actually goes together with algebra. Now, one example is probably the area model, which I absolutely love. The area model, if you're not sure, I'll link a video to my dear friend James up here who shows you the area model. And basically we start off with numbers with the area model, but it connects to geometry. We start off with numbers and multiplication, and this also leads to algebra. So it's so important that we actually expose our students to something like the area model, or I call it the grid model as well. So that students can actually then see the connections of how number is related to geometry and how that also then leads to algebra. I want to share some experiences with you about working with departments and really trying to reorganize those standards into a coherent, interconnected fashion. On one of my online courses, I had a teacher who was starting to begin a unit plan, and I said to her, well, what about, instead of just teaching fractions, decimals and percentages separately, this was for grade 6, 7, I said, what about combining them so that students can actually then see the connections between those three forms of number and the equivalence and how they are just different representations for different contexts. And she said to me, but we've always done it this way, where we've taught fractions first, then we've taught decimals, then we've taught percentages. And I said to her, that's very interesting. So because we've done it this way, we've always done it this way, do you think that we could think about reorganizing that and really trying to show students, the connectedness between fractions, decimals and percentages? So she had a huge aha moment at that point. And all of a sudden, she started planning this unit that showed the interconnectedness of all three and went through this lovely process and evolution in terms of her thinking. So sometimes it's easy for us to hold on to something because we've always done it that way. But sometimes it's also wonderful to be open-minded and to try different things. Now, another department that I was working with, we were starting the unit planning process, and this head of department said to me, I've just been breaking up the topics basically by the standards and then planning units around that. And I said, well, what about connecting, the different topics again? And I saw him go through this massive aha moment too. It was like he realized that was going to actually save time in the end. So instead of teaching sequences and series by themselves as a topic, he thought about teaching linear functions with arithmetic sequences. So actually you could cover both those topics, but in a more meaningful fashion and within a context as well. So it's so important to be able to give our students different connections between the different mathematical ideas, and in the long run this actually helps us to save us time. So it's not about content coverage, but it's about depth of understanding and really helping our students to understand mathematics in all different contexts that's interrelated and interconnected. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.